topic is maths symbols and equations, English vocabulary. There is a quick test to check your knowledge, so stay till the end and make sure you take it. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on our future videos. You probably know how to read this simple equation. It's 2 plus 2 equals 4. However, do you want to know how to read this equation in English? Or this? If you do, then this video is for you. Please note that this is not a maths lesson. In this video, you will learn how to read simple mathematical symbols and equations in English. Before we start, we would like to explain something that you have probably noticed. We said maths as a short form for mathematics. You may wonder why other people say math as opposed to maths, and you don't know which one is correct. Be assured that both forms are correct. However, math is more common in American English and maths is used in British English. Okay, so let's go. We'll start with simple equations and symbols first, and basic mathematical operations. First, addition. You will probably know this one. The symbols here are the addition sign or the plus sign and the equal sign, sometimes also called the equal sign, without the s at the end. The result, or the total, of an addition equation is called a sum. We read the whole equation like this. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Or you could say 2 and 2 is 4. Or if you want to explain this to someone, then you could say, if you add 2 and 2 together, you get 4. Let's now move on to subtraction. The symbols used here are the subtraction sign or the minus sign, and again the equal sign. The result of a subtraction equation is called a difference. We read the whole equation like this. 5 minus 3 equals 2. Or if you wanted to explain this to someone, you could say, if you take 3 away from 5, you get 2. Okay, let's now move on to multiplication. The symbols used here are the multiplication sign or the times sign, and again the equal sign. The result of a multiplication equation is called a product. We read the whole equation like this. 2 times 3 equals 6. Or if you wanted to explain this to someone, you could say, if you multiply 2 by 3, you get 6. Let's now move on to division. The symbols used here are the division sign and again the equal sign. The result of a division is called a quotient. We read the whole equation like this. 10 divided by 5 equals 2. Or if you wanted to explain this to someone, you could say, if you divide 10 by 5, you get 2. It is also worth mentioning that on some occasions you will have brackets used in the equations like this one. We read this as 1 plus 2 in brackets times 3 equals 9. Okay, we have now covered the basic functions. As you know, equations are not always equal. sometimes you could get different symbols instead of the equals sign. Let's see some examples. We learned this one already. X equals 5. But notice the difference now. This is how we read it. X is not equal to 5. Or another one. X is greater than 5. Or X is smaller than 5. Or another example. X is greater than or equal to 5. Or X is smaller than or equal to 5. And one more. X is approximately equal to 5. Okay, now we can move on to fractions, decimals, roots, and exponents. First, fractions. The number at the top is the numerator, and the number at the bottom is the denominator. We read this fraction as 1/5. As you can see, the number in the numerator is read as a cardinal number, and the number in the denominator is read as an ordinal number. If the number in the numerator is greater than 1, then we add s to the ordinal number in the denominator. For example, 2/5. Let's now move on to decimals. The dot in the middle is the period or the decimal point. This is how we read it. 0.7. Or we could read it as we read fractions. 7/10. Although this is less common. Sometimes the 0 is omitted and we say 0.7. If the decimal number is longer like this, then we say 82.777. We never say 82.777. This would be incorrect. Alright, let's move on to square roots. The first symbol you see is the radical sign. Sometimes it's also called the square root sign. This is how we read this. The square root of 4. If there is a number above the radical sign, then we use an ordinal number to refer to it, the 5th root of 64. However, there is an exception. If the number above the radical sign is 3, then we do not say the 3rd root of 8, but rather the cube root of 8. Okay, let's now move on to the last subsection, exponents. The small value is called the exponent. We read the number as 4 squared. If the exponent value is 3, like in this example, then we say 4 cubed. If the exponent value is greater than 3, like in this example, we read 4 to the power of 5. Or we can say 4 to the 5th power. Alright, we've pretty much covered all the basic symbols and equations. Now is the time to test your knowledge. Grab a pen and paper if you want. The task is to read the equation below correctly, using what you have learned already. This is the equation. Alright, so you will now have 10 seconds to try and read this equation in English, but don't worry, you can pause the video if you need to. Let's go! Alright, the time is up. Let's see if you got it right. 6 minus 5 in brackets times 4 plus 4.7 plus 2 cubed minus 7/10 is not equal to the square root of 257. Did you get it right? If yes, then well done. If not, then watch the video again and give it another go. Thank you for watching. This was Math Symbols and Equations English Vocabulary lesson. See our Learn English with Tangmation playlist to learn more about English vocabulary and English grammar. Until the next